Hey everybody, it's Kyle. Today I want to talk about links. And I'm not talking about the big scary cat links. I'm talking about links like the links in a chain, or I guess the links in a watch maybe. Linking things together. And I'll share with you why that can be helpful for you and how it is helpful for me. So a few years ago I read a book called, I think it was called Tiny Habits, and it was by a guy named, I think his name was Fogg, BJ Fogg, and he presented some ideas that I thought was pretty interesting, but the one that I really latched onto was that he said that if you can connect certain things you do every day with other things, you can make some pretty dramatic changes in your life, and they'll stick because you connect them, you create links. And I'll give you a good example. At the time, one of my two boys on the spectrum was really causing a lot of problems in our home. He was having regular meltdowns. He was unhappy with everybody and everything. It was really just a difficult situation. And I found myself being worn out in the evenings, you know what I'm talking about, and just exhausted. And every evening I would, as I'd get ready for bed, I'd think, oh my gosh, he was really tricky today. And then I'd wake up the next morning thinking, here we go again. And it really wasn't a good situation for me to be in. So I took his advice and I linked a good thought about my son on the spectrum, the one that was causing his problems, to something I did every morning and every evening. And that activity happened to be brushing my teeth. And so what I did was I decided that whenever I brushed my teeth, I would think of something that made me smile real big about Eric. I don't usually like to say his name, I guess sometimes it slips, but I would think about something that made me smile really big about him. And the thing that I decided to link to brushing my teeth was, a few years ago, we went to the water park on Autism Awareness Day. And he had so much fun, but the funnest thing he did, I think, and where he was laughing and smiling and having the best time, was when he forced me to go on a ride that scared the heck out of me. It's this ride where the two of you sit in an inner tube together, and you just kind of drop off the edge down into this little, and then you slide back up and back down, and then you end up on the side. And it scared the mess out of me, so much that I think I screamed like a girl. And his reaction to me screaming like a girl was just some unbridled joy, the kind that I don't see in him very often. And so every morning when I would wake up, I'd put my toothbrush in my mouth and I would think of that event, and it would make me smile so big, and it would brighten me and brighten my thoughts about my son, and start the day out well. And then at the end of the day, no matter how tough it was or how many difficulties we had, I'd stick that toothbrush in my mouth and I'd link that to thinking of Eric and that really happy, fun moment we had together. And so I went from, going to bed frustrated sometimes and thinking it's a long day, to being real happy and smiling about him. And then waking up the next day smiling about him because I'd brushed my teeth in the morning. And so I thought, what else can I do with this? And so I just started creating links in a lot of different places. My first link was another one with Eric, where he used to have this habit of grunting at me when he didn't like something I did. And that was pretty regular. That was 4, 5, 6 times a day. I'd say something or do something, he would just kind of growl or grunt at me. And so I decided, I'm going to link that grunt to hugging him. Well, as you can imagine, he would grunt, I would smile, and I would go in for the hug. And initially he was put off by it really bad, and I was very careful how I approached him, but I wanted him to know, I wanted to connect that hug with the fact that I loved him. And over a period of time, he actually realized pretty quickly that as soon as he grunted, he'd put his arms out because he knew he was about to get a hug. Well, over a period of time, he stopped grunting altogether. And I'm not sure if he just didn't want to hug me anymore, or if he just stopped as a natural course of how things go. But I really enjoyed hugging him. I really enjoyed, he was getting bigger and bigger, almost as big as me. But I really enjoyed wrapping my arms around him and hugging him, because I felt like it was a good way for me to express how I felt about him to him. And so I changed it to whenever I would see him. Now, what that meant was that if I woke up in the morning and he came downstairs and I saw him, I'd give him a hug in the morning, and he'd go back into his room, and he spends a lot of time in his room. He likes to watch movies, and he's kind of self-contained. He likes to be on his own a lot. So he'd come down for lunch, and I'd hug him again, and then I'd go up and see him a little bit later to make sure he's okay, and I'd walk in and hug him again, and it was pretty interesting because after a while started getting conditioned that whenever he saw me, he would do the same thing. He would stick his arms out to hug me. He'd get off the school bus and he'd walk towards me and his arms would go out. And it was pretty interesting. I went over to visit him at school one time, and I walked in, and this is high school. And as I walk in and he sees me, he turns towards me and raises his hands and starts to walk towards me and gives me a big old hug. And I can't tell you, it was pretty shocking for some of the people in the school, but it was because I had created a link to something that happened regularly. So I'm going to share one last one with you and tell you how you can use it in your life here next. I have this link with my wife that as soon as I walk in the door from work, before I talk to my kids or let them engage me or anything, I head straight to my wife, and I always give her a kiss. And she doesn't usually, it's not really one where she kisses me back so much as it is, she just turns her cheek and she has that expectation. And that's a link I've created for myself. I want my wife to know I love her, and I want her to feel that regularly. And so it's a very simple link that I've created. But on the days that I come in and something's happening and I miss it, I hear about it from my wife, because she's created that link too, and she knows what it means. So what I wanted to do today is challenge you to create some links for yourself. Maybe you decide that in the morning when you brush your teeth, or in the evening when you brush your teeth, you think good thoughts about your child or your adult son or daughter on the spectrum, or you create other links for yourself. Find something you do on a regular basis and create a link for that to something that you want to do. And it'll surprise you how quickly you can develop a habit based on having a link that connects you to that. So I want to leave that with you. Try the hugging thing. It's one of my favorites of all times. And go out there today and thrive. Have a great afternoon, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.